Back with another Bond review, same shirt, different day. But today, talking about reviewing From Russia with Love. And, this is the one that a lot of fans consider the best or one of the best. This is more of a pure, realistic Bond film. This is more of a serious Bond film. Now, as far as my take on the movie, to me, this is a decent Bond flick, but it's not my favorite. And I can already see people disagreeing with this review, and I can see the fingers going down. But, and this movie does have some good stuff going for it, which I'll get to. But I think with me, when it comes to this movie, the first half to me is not the most interesting, but after that 1 hour mark is where the film picks up for me. I mean, and that's why I say it's decent. I'd rather watch, if you were to ask me, I'd rather watch Dr. No More, Goldfinger, which, I'll talk about next. I mean, like I said, a lot of people are going to disagree. I see the reviews on IMDb. Again, a lot of people, say this is the best or it's in their top three because it's more serious. It's more of a realistic Bond film. And I see that term used a lot when people describe this movie. Of course, and then later on, making a video game for the PlayStation 2 in which Sean Connery came back to voice the character. So like I said, I understand a lot of people, this is their favorite or it's one of the best, etc. But again, I still like the movie, but it's just not a favorite of mine. But the plot to this movie, you have Spectre, who wants revenge on Bond for killing Dr. No from the first movie, and Bond is assigned to get the Selector, but Spectre, they want the Lecter, so they hire this ex-Mersh operative, this KGB type character, Rosa Klebb, who is hired by number one, also Blofeld, aka Blofeld, which you don't see the character. You see a person there, like you see him behind the desk with this cat, giving off Dr. Claw vibes here. But the introduction of the Blofeld character, and he hires, this Rosa Klebb, again, kind of a KGB type, kind of an operative. And again, Spectre, they want their hands on the decoder, and they want revenge on Bond, so that's when Klebb hires this assassin, Grant, played by Robert Shaw. You throw in the Tatiana Romanova character, who would later, in the third act of the movie, she would become sort of a love interest for Bond. And she's a cipher clerk for the Soviet, or like Soviet station, or Soviet, let's see here. I want to get it right. Yeah, a Soviet consulate clerk. And like I said, would later on become a love interest for the Bond character. And she's sort of an unwitting pawn here in their game. And it's up to Bond to stop their plan and stop, Grant, what have you. And that's kind of the story here. So they want revenge on Bond for, again, killing Dr. No, and at the same time they're trying to get the Selector, and you have Bond in the first half of the movie, he's in Istanbul, and then that's when after that, first hour, they get on the Orient Express, if I could talk right. So yeah, again, that's kind of the story. But, again, this is a decent movie because more so for the second half of the film when they get on the train. That's where the film really picks up for me. And I'll get more into that. But now, as far as like a little information about the movie, I have a little information right here. Okay, so it says, following the financial success of the first movie, Dr. No, the studios greenlighted a second Bond film. The studio doubled the budget offered to Eon Productions with $2 million, and also approved a bonus for Sean Connery, who would receive a $100,000 along with his $54,000 salary. At the time, JFK had named Fleming's novel From Russia with Love among his 10 favorite books of all time, because I believe this was the 5th novel in that series. And the producers chose this as they chose this movie, that book, as the follow-up to the debut of Dr. No. And this was the last film that JFK saw at the White House on November 20th, 1963, before heading to, what happened in Dallas. The film introduced several conventions which would become essential elements of the series, such as a pre-title sequence, the Blofeld character, referred in the film as only number 1, though Blofeld is mentioned in the credits. A secret weapon gadget for Bond. You would have a helicopter sequence, which would come after, it would come later in the climax of the movie. Repeated in every Bond film except The Man with the Golden Gun. You would have a postscript action scene after the main climax. So, also too, a theme song with lyrics. And the line at the end, which you would see in the credits, James Bond will return or be back. It was a critical and commercial success. It took in more than $78 million in worldwide box office receipts, far more than its $2 million budget and its predecessor, Dr. No, and thereby becoming a blockbuster at that time. Again, this was a bigger movie. I mean, this is the one that launched Sean Connery. And that's one thing I'll say, I'll give this film, I'm not big on this movie, but I will say, and like I mentioned in my review of the first movie, Dr. No laid the groundwork for the character in the series. And this is the one that really launched Sean Connery. It really cemented also the James Bond character and, what would come after. So, I respect that movie. I respect this movie in that regard, that, again, it really gave life and really, again, cemented the Bond character and the series. But talking about the cast, you have Sean Connery. He's back as Bond, and does a great job once again. Again, he brings that cool factor, that that suave and charisma to the character. Now, I could say, it seems like in Dr. No, in regards to his lines and dialogue, it seems he had a little bit more fun lines in the first movie. And maybe it's because, this is more of a serious Bond adventure. This is more about the spy aspect, that, he still has some good lines here, but maybe because Dr. No had more of a, fun vibe to it, being in Jamaica, it was a little bit more entertaining, so he was given a little bit more fun lines to play with, but, he was still good here. Sean Connery is the man. Like I said in my previous review, again, he brings that, cool factor, and also that, that Connery suave. You have the Tatiana Romanova character, again, who's a cipher clerk, and again, they would play, in the third act is where she would become more of a love interest for Bond, and, she was a decent Bond girl. The actress's name is Daniela Bianchi, or Bianchi, and she was dubbed by Barbara Jefford. But again, I thought she was decent. Their little romance in the movie, it's fine. You also have the character of Karen Bay, played by Pedro Armendáriz, and sorry if I mispronounced the name here, but he is the head of the MI6 station in Istanbul. And, that character, again, he's a supporting character. He's with Bond, more so in the first half of the movie. And, he was a decent character. I mean, him and Bond had some decent scenes, especially some of the locations, underground, under the city. You would have, these canals and stuff, and the sewer system I don't know what you would call it. I think it's the sewer systems, but that's pretty cool stuff there. I mean, I like some of that locations, but from what I understand, the actor who played Karen Bay in the movie, at the time he was suffering from cancer, uh, and apparently he killed himself. He shot himself because the cancer he had was inoperable, and I don't know if he killed himself like towards the end of the film or maybe after the film came out. I'm not sure, but sad to hear that. Um, because he was during the making of the movie, and I watched a little documentary on the movie. He was suffering from cancer during the filming of the movie. But again, it's sad to hear that. But again, he was fine. I mean, and that's something too that, you know, again, I can watch the first half of the movie, and again, maybe I'll talk more about that. I know I've mentioned it a couple of times, and I really haven't like talked a whole lot about it. But the stuff between him and Bond, it's fine, but to me, it just wasn't the most interesting. But the rest of the cast, you have Rosa Klebb, again, this ex-Mersh operative character, kind of a KGB type. She's the one that has the poisoned tip shoes where these little daggers would come out, and she would like kick people and you would die basically. But she was fine. Not my favorite villain so far, but again, she was there fine. Robert Shaw as the character Grant, a great villain for this movie. I mean, I would say definitely I prefer this villain a little bit more than Dr. No, because Robert Shaw, with this performance, it was a very cold when it comes to his demeanor, the way he conveyed that performance, and demeanor to the character where he doesn't have a lot of dialogue, but Robert Shaw can pull that off. Robert Shaw, can pull that off where he doesn't have to say much. It's all about expression. It's all about body language, and a great villain, that is of equal, that can, because in the beginning, which I like how the movie starts off, because you have the Robert Shaw character. Well, you see James Bond, you think it's James Bond, but it's actually a guy wearing a prosthetic mask, and the Grant character, Robert Shaw's character, because they're like in some kind of hedge maze, he has the garrote and strangles the guy because he's doing training. So I liked how the film kicks off. It's a fun opening for a movie, for a Bond film. But yeah, like I said, Robert Shaw, great job as this character, Grant, this assassin. And so yeah, he's great in the movie. You also have the character of M, who would come back here, Bernie Lee, who is the chief of British intelligence. You have the Sylvia Trench character from the first movie. She appears here in the very beginning. And then after that, they didn't bring that character back anymore. Same director, Terence Young, who directed Dr. No and Thunderball. He directed this film. And like I said, with the movie, the first half, it's more about, Bond and Instable, where he's with the Karen Bay character, and at some points in the first half, there are people trying to pick off Bond. Like you have this one party scene, and the party gets attacked, and then you throw in Grant's character in there who's trying to pick off Bond. So, but I don't know, maybe it's because, Instable for me wasn't the most interesting, like, it wasn't the most interesting location. Like, Jamaica in the first movie, Dr. No, that to me was more of a fun, backdrop for the movie, for that movie. Maybe because I like the Jamaica environment a little bit more. Instable, it's like, okay, I mean, some nice architecture there, and I like some of the like underground, like canal scenes or the sewer scenes where the Bond character and Karen Bay are, roaming around in. That's some cool, again, location. But, again, really for me, the film where it really picks up is where they get on the train. And, a little bit of romance is there between Bond and Tatiana, but, Grant, Robert Shaw's character, is also on the train. And you get their little fight a little bit later on, which is a cool fight. And then leading up to the climax with the helicopter. And so, yeah, again, it's more about that after the hour mark is what I enjoy. Now, this is also, which I forgot to mention, almost forgot to mention, the debut of the Q character, played by Desmond Llewelyn. And of course, he's the character that would provide Bond the gadgets. So in this movie, you would have the attaché case, which in this briefcase given to Bond contains a folding sniper rifle with ammo. You would also have a knife. 50 gold sovereigns are contained in secret compartments. In addition to that, there's a safety mechanism which would detonate a gas bomb in the briefcase if opened improperly. Because you have one scene where Q explains to Bond, here, open it this way, and you're good. It won't explode in your face. But if you open it improperly, yeah, you get gas in the face, which Robert Shaw's character would do in their little fight scene. So, and the case is almost identical to the one described in the novel, except the book added a cyanide capsule, which Bond would use to commit suicide upon capture. I don't know. I don't know the source material that much. And, maybe somebody out there can explain a little bit more on that, because I don't really know the source material. But also, too, in here, in regards to gadget, you would have the pager, a bug detector, garrote watch. You would have like a little camera. And then you would see by one of our villains the dagger shoes, the shoes that are, the blades would pop out in the front that are poisoned. And she would, kick. And she has a little fight with Bond at the end where she tries to, kick Bond with her poison tip shoes. So again, that was cool. And, this was apparently Sean Connery's favorite Bond movie. And, and because of this movie, and just going off a little bit of notes here, Spielberg saw Robert Shaw, his performance, and from there, from watching his performance in this movie is why he casted him for Jaws. And so, yeah, and apparently also, too, in the fight scene on the train, while it's only a few minute fight on screen, it took like 3 weeks to film. Most of it was performed by the actors rather than doubles. So, that's pretty cool. But, at the end of the day, I'll say this. Again, while this is not a favorite of mine, again, I know some might disagree. But I still give the film its respect because, again, it launched Sean Connery. It catapulted him. It cemented the series and the character. And, yeah, I can understand it. This is more of, again, this is more of a serious Bond movie, Bond adventure. It's more, again, realistic because I see that term, used a lot when I see other reviews out there. And that's cool. That's totally fine. I much prefer other, Bond movies. Case in point, Goldfinger, which I'll talk about next. Which I would say is one of my favorite Connery Bond films. So, but at the end of the day, this is still a decent Bond flick, and I can still watch the movie. More the second half, but it's still not bad. It's still a good flick. So that's my review of From Russia with Love. But damn, the sweet potato fries. But anyways, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for my review of Goldfinger. But once again, thank you for watching, and have a good day.